Hello everyone, welcome to the bonus podcast for episode 469.
I even told you what to say before
I don't understand
we
why it's so
started.
important to get... It's
Well,
like
you can't say bonus episode for episode, you repeat yourself.
bonus episode for podcast 469.
You say it that way if you want that. Hello everybody, welcome. We just finished recording the main podcast for this week. Usually we do our bonus podcast like on Tuesday evening or Thursday evening.
But
because
we
of
had
this week, we
an
had to
inkling
wait.
There might be some developing news in this character's story this week.
And we were right.
The character is, of course, Seb Franklin.
The late Seb Franklin.
And he's dead.
He is. So I knew that this attack was going to happen. I've known for a few weeks. I mean, that's not insider knowledge or anything. I think lots of people have known for a few weeks. So I thought it was going to... maybe it's about time we did a character profile of him. And I took a massive risk because if he hadn't died in tonight's episode and it had been left hanging and then he died, you know, the following week or something, it would have been... not so neatly tied up. So thank you, Seb, for
Toot toot.
for not hanging on for any longer, I suppose.
Toot toot.
What's that?
That's the sound of you tooting your own horn.
So this is a full and frank Franklin profile. And we're a bit knackered. It's 10 to 1 on Saturday morning at the moment.
Listen, the night is young. I've got
to get up early tomorrow to do the podcast.
I don't know why you're here.
Editing.
I can do this all by myself.
So we'll see what we can do.
Seb Franklin was born on the 6th of March 2001 and he died on the 8th of May 2021.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
His mother was Abby Franklin and he's got two half brother and sisters, Charlie Franklin and Lexi Franklin.
Also known as the Seblings.
The Seblings.
On this podcast.
He first appeared on the 10th of October 2016. He might appear as a dead body in later episodes, or a ghost, or a memory, or a dream. Who knows?
They do, yeah, they've been liking to do this. I've written here that he was in around 280 episodes, because I think the Corriepedia was updated, midway... Maybe at the end of April, so there's been a few since then. So I'm gonna say around about 280-ish.
And
what? He's played by Harry Vizinoni. He was. It's just a completely different tone, isn't it? Now all talking about him in the past. This character is over. It is done with. There's no more developments going to happen here.
No,
and
it's sad.
It's going to be a bit of a sad tone.
I know. I'm sorry, Seb. You were gone too soon. Harry was a student of Manchester's acting school Act 51, or ACT 51, or ACT 51, or Act 51.
Yeah.
One of those things. And before Corrie, he appeared in an episode of Doctors. And he was spotted playing Hamlet in a play called I Hate Shakespeare at Sales Waterside Theatre.
Yeah, and that's how he hit the big time. Yeah, he's talent spotted. So we're just going to kind of do a rundown of everything that we know about Seb,
just
his
like
childhood,
we would do for a character profile.
What he's done on the show, maybe have a little discussion at the end. But honestly, if you want to know what we think about Seb, I would recommend listening to the main podcast this week. Although if you're listening to this, on YouTube or whatever years in the future, then sorry if this one leaves a bit shortchanged.
Let's not even do ourselves down before we've...
Let's see how we go, shall we? So go on, you start off.
His childhood was pretty rough, really, wasn't it? Because Abby was not a great mum. She was an alcoholic and a druggie. And his dad, which we've never heard from, or I wonder if he will come out of the woodwork here, or I don't see the point really. His dad leaves Abby pretty early on, so she has to raise him alone. Then the twins come along, Charlie and Lexi. They get born after Abby gets pregnant when she has a relationship with a guy called Darren. Seb ends up raising them really, and then the relationship between Seb and Abby is pretty strained because he kind of ends up being the adult in the relationship, even though he is just a child.
He's the one making, what was it, fish finger rockets or something?
No, that was Anna that made those, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, so he raises his little brother and sister basically, while Abby's zonked out and blotto on heroin and booze concoctions. So things weren't so good for them, and this kind of background for him we didn't realise, or we weren't told about until he'd been in the show for about a year, because he came in as a very, very minor character.
Yeah, I remember.
And was it last week we were talking on the podcast about characters that we're surprised are still here? And I don't know whether I mentioned him, but absolutely, when he came into the show, I would never have guessed that he was going to be sticking around for 5 years, because he was just...
He really did seem
he was just Faye's boyfriend.
Bring in some guy
to kind of
to make Anna worry about the fact that she's dating somebody.
Yeah, because he's brought in as Faye's boyfriend. They've already been dating for 3 weeks or something at this point, and they're discovered kissing together at the house by Kevin and Anna. Annie is not happy about this. Anna is not happy about this because Faye has already got herself pregnant with one kid and
gave it away
to the dad, left her with the dad, and she's worried that Faye's just going to get pregnant again.
That happens. I've heard that happens.
I have heard more than one baby can pop out of the same hole.
Shocking.
Craig is also not too pleased about this because he's always had a bit of a torch for Faye, hasn't he? Mm-hmm. But despite his opposition to this, they carry on seeing each other, and they're a partner for a good year or two or so. That's another one that we didn't talk about on the main podcast this week. How is Faye going to react when she hears about Seb?
You did say it to me.
I said to you before the podcast started, because Faye's in prison, someone's going to have to break that news to her.
I'm not really that bothered about seeing her reaction, to be honest.
I'm more interested just to see, will it even be recognised? Because Seb seemed in no way bothered that Faye was sent to prison.
No.
So is she going to be bothered that he's dead? I don't know.
I mean, if I look back to the guy I was dating in 2016, I wouldn't care if he was in prison.
You were dating someone in 2016? Oh, no, that's me.
Yeah, he was a wrong-un, though, from the start.
He really was, yeah. I mean, there was a scene towards the beginning where he was going to steal a woman's purse in the cafe.
How dare you?
The 2017.
Isn't it funny? I just want to say, Coronation Street quite often does this, where the way they demonstrate characters evil is have them stealing somebody's things.
Yeah, just
or picking a £5 note off the floor.
It all counts, though.
Or stealing David's wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Think of all the characters that have been introduced nicking something.
I know. He was a real wrong-un, and so when Abby was there saying, "Oh, he was gold in the hospital today," and she
He turned out all right, is what she meant to say.
He did turn out all right, but he's not been a perfect little boy all his life. He was
lovely that last week.
Got a bit rose-tinted spectacles there, Abby, I'm afraid, about your dying son.
I say nice things about anyone who buys me a necklace.
So this is interesting. He one of the naughty things that he did in 2017 was stealing Phelan's drill. So he's
taken after Toya.
Taken after Toya, exactly. Yeah. Phelan ends up taking pity on him though, and there was a really lovely relationship I thought between Phelan, who was like a mentor figure to Seb, wasn't he for that year?
Yeah.
And I mean, despite Phelan being a massively nasty villain, he really did have a human side, didn't he? And that was one of the things that made us love him so much. That was one of the things that
made him so complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the relationship that he had with Seb was lovely, and he was his little apprentice and stuff. And,
I was laughing because Abby just walked all over the keyboard.
Abby has just got up and walked over the keyboard. Not Abby Franklin. Our Abby.
Our Abby Cat.
Right. So what else did Seb get up to? Yeah.
Do you want me to say?
Oh yeah, you can do something.
Yes, Phelan takes pity on him, and he starts to work for him. But he does have to stop him from nicking Uncle Albert's war medal when they refit Number One's kitchen.
Yes, it's funny because Seb to look at him now, you would never think that he used to be a bit of a
scallywag.
Yeah, he was a scallywag, wasn't he?
Many characters start off in Coronation Street as scallywags and TVs. He gets excluded from school that year, and he and Faye agree to get his and hers tattoos, but she goes through with it.
yeah, that's right. There's a scene, I think you can watch it on YouTube or something, where they're sitting at a bus stop, him and her, and she's lifting up at it's like on her hip, and he's looking down and saying how horrible it looks.
Yeah, he was not impressed by this. I think he's glad he didn't get one.
Yeah, although did you see? I mean, he had like arrow tattoos on his arm today when he was in hospital.
Many characters on Coronation Street now have non-canon.
Well, Abby does, doesn't
tattoos, which are the actors' tattoos, which they can't cover up with makeup, and I think they just give up on them now. Yeah, we've seen more of Seb this week than we have in a long time. I said to you, if I ever end up in hospital like Seb, cover your nips.
Cover my nipples. Come on, a little bit of dignity.
I don't know why we have to have them out.
No, the ladies, when they're in hospital, they don't have their boobs out,
I don't want to see anyone's nipples. I don't even especially like seeing...
Just pull the duvet up a bit.
Seeing animals' nipples. I'll be one of these Puritan ladies that goes around, putting bras on pigs.
So you could never be a milkmaid, is what we're saying.
I remember seeing on Etsy, you can buy little stickers that shape like flowers to put over cats' bums.
I know.
So
you would have gone in the hospital and just put one of those on each of Seb's nipples.
Do you know those little frilly look like tiny little chef hats that you used to put over chicken legs.
Oh, yeah.
I'll put those over his nipples.
We're talking far too much about Seb's nipples.
Drawing attention to them. A bit too much. Anyway, he beats up Jackson, who is the father of Miley, who is Faye's baby. The Hodge family returned from Canada for 2 weeks, and he beats Jackson up. So, you know, at the end of the day, he gets killed, being beaten up. It was karma all along.
Oh, yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, you were trying to say
maybe Jackson should have come back and been one of the anonymous...
Yeah, maybe he was.
Yeah.
Who knows? To say?
Who knows?
I mean, I was saying to you, I was criticising you, and you were saying, oh, what if it was Kelly and... What if it was
Corrie.
Kelly and Corrie that were being beaten up, and would we feel differently?
Mm.
You know, we felt sorry for Seb. It only took him how many years to redeem himself after beating somebody else up. So, you know, in 5 years' time...
It's all right because he paid for his crimes. He went to prison for 4 months.
In 5 years' time, Corey will be sorry for him when he gets beaten to death by somebody else. Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah, so he gets sent to Larchfield Young Offenders something or other.
Prison.
Hotel for 4 months. Phelan smuggles Faye in for visits.
Yeah,
nobody asks him why he's got such a giant
Anna does
bag.
not want Faye to have anything to do with Seb. I mean, she didn't beforehand, but after he gets sent to prison, like...
I know, but I think she was smuggled in against Anna's knowledge, not against the prison's knowledge. Yeah. So, like, Phelan was like, oh, this is a really heavy work bag. No, don't help me with it. I've got to go straight from here to IKEA to return this. He gets released, and he gets a full apprenticeship from Phelan, and he gets given a caseworker, who's what they're called, social worker, and it's Nicola Rubens.
Yeah, Stein. I had forgotten the Nicola and Seb link. Yeah,
Seb link. Yes. So, and Pat's daughter is his social worker.
This is the summer when it became obvious that Seb was going to be more of a main character and not just a boyfriend for Seb who was going to disappear off. Faye, sorry, yeah. Yeah.
So, he tells Faye, to Seb, that he's a victim of domestic abuse because his stepdad's been thumping him. So Faye
this is the siblings' dad.
Faye says, this Darren, they should run away together, but Seb doesn't want to leave the twins. This was also, I think this was like... when Abby wasn't that much of a likeable.
This was the Abby's introduction. So we had a whole year worth of Seb where we didn't see any of Abby at all. And then they cast Sally Carman to play this deadbeat mother, basically.
I really don't think that role was supposed to be as big as it turned out to be.
No, she wasn't likeable at all. But straight from the beginning, we knew that there was something special there.
Abby's not impressed with Anna meddling because. She kind of takes Seb under her wing.
Yeah, do gooder Anna does.
Finds out how awful his home life is, tries to help out, but Abby does end up breaking up with Darren. Then Abby gets found unconscious at the home, so the twins get taken into care, and Seb blames Anna because she called the social services in to begin with.
No, she
and they have
didn't.
An argument, but it was actually Sally who did it. I know, Michael, it's written in front of me, I can read it. I'm not going to not know.
Ahead you're reading.
I can read a whole sentence at once.
Wow.
Yeah. Seb falls off the ladder during a window cleaning round and Anna finds him unconscious, and this was when we had a really weird scene because he goes to hospital and Seb whispers...
No.
Phelan whispers to Seb into Seb's ear, Anna wants to kill you. And it kind of gets planted in his subconscious mind somehow. And he also, Phelan puts Anna's earring at the site of the accident to make it look like Anna pushed him out of the window.
Yeah, so this was all part of Phelan's campaign to get Anna, who...
Can we not say campaign? Can we say evil plot?
Evil plot. Yeah. To get Anna sent down because she was just the thorn in his evil side.
Totally relate to that.
Yeah.
We don't like her either. She gets arrested. While at the hospital, we find out that Seb has HIV, and Abby says, I wondered if he did.
Didn't want to say anything.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you should.
He might have contracted it from an ex-girlfriend who was killed in a car accident, but I decided not to tell him. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but okay. I mean, it's not just from the point of view of it's a dangerous thing that you need to get treatment for, but also you could be giving it to people without knowing. What a stupid idiot. Anyway, she wasn't...
He was such a player, that Seb.
Well,
Spread
it's not
it all
just
around
that.
Manchester.
I'm thinking of cutting fingers and putting your finger in people's mouths and going, oh, taste this.
Getting
blood.
beaten up and kicked to death and like spitting blood out at your attacker. Corey, you better watch out, mate.
I know. Actually, I think that would be something that might freak him out. Of all the things that would freak Corey out about this,
true, actually.
I can actually see him getting like going into a narcissistic rage of finding out that he could have sprayed blood. Yeah.
Well, he's got HIV blood all over his trainers and on the inside of his washing machine now, hasn't he?
Oh no. So anyway,
this was an interesting story because it was the first HIV story that Coronation Street had done, and I say story, it was a couple of weeks worth of he's got HIV, but it was fascinating to me to learn a little bit more about it and what it meant. And obviously it's not the same death sentence as it was, back in the 80s.
When we were children of the 80s, and that was the era of scaring the hell out of everybody with those scary, horrible adverts going,
with the tombstones.
If you've got HIV or AIDS, you're going to die a horrible death. And it was horrible because famous people kept dying, Freddie Mercury and other kind of high profile people kept secretly, or not so secretly, dying of it, and it was, a scary thing.
Yeah, so but this story was kind of a story of hope for people.
But it was
with
also
HIV
a stigmatised thing that people thought, I think it was more in America. But the idea that it was only gay men who contracted it, or it was kind of, karma for them for being subversive and evil, for not being straight, how all us goody-goodies are.
Yeah.
So it really was an important thing to talk about for people, perhaps, like us, who hadn't really, I need to revisit my HIV knowledge. It's 2017, I haven't checked up on it, because, you don't know everything all the time, and sometimes your knowledge gets stuck in a time warp, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're not necessarily going to update your knowledge base on things unless it gets brought to your attention, which is why Coronation Street can be quite a helpful thing.
Yeah, the thing is, the problem, I suppose, a problem that might be, you might describe with this storyline, is that at the time, a fair number of Coronation Street characters were being given, illnesses or disabilities, like with Jack's leg and Johnny's MS and everything. It felt a little bit like David's epilepsy years before. It's like who's going to get what now, and are we going to see the consequences of this? But I suppose with this HIV one, it really was a case of saying, well, you can live a relatively normal life. Well, as long as you take your medication and everything. It's, like I say, it's not the death sentence it used to be. Yeah. But it's been brought up every now and then, hasn't it? But it's not like...
Sure, yeah. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good progressive story, and it's one of those things where it doesn't need to be an issues-based story.
It wasn't a story, was it? It was just that he's got
It's an important thing to mention.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a year-long storyline.
No.
And many people, you said, everyone's got something. That's true, everyone has something.
Yeah, I suppose
if you think about it, you go, I'm totally healthy, and then, apart from the fact I've got asthma, or, apart from the fact I've got an irritatingly clicky jaw when I eat, for some reason, I don't know.
I have got an irritatingly clicky jaw at the moment, it's true, it's been a few months.
Really annoying, can you stop doing it?
No.
That year, at the end of that year, Phelan decides to frame Seb for Andy and Vinny's murders. So he gives him whiskey, shows him his gun, and Seb gets his prints all over it, and Bob's your uncle.
Yes, Finn's been a bit of a naughty man, hasn't it? In a brilliant scene, killed off Andy and Vinny.
In a dark warehouse.
Took advantage of poor Seb, poor
dark
trusting
satanic
Seb.
mill.
Yeah, made it out like he did it by getting his fingerprints all over it. So 2018 was when Abby made a triumphant return to Weatherfield after a stint in rehab, so she says. She asked Seb to move away with her and says, look, we can get the twins back, we can be a family again, I'm clean. By this point, Seb is absolutely terrified of Phelan because he's convinced himself that not only... I can't remember whether he thinks that he killed Andy and Vinny or not at that point, but he does think that he killed Luke. So he agrees that he's going to scarper with Abby. And this is interesting that we made the connection between Seb's death and Luke's death, another kind of pointless... innocent,
violent,
killed in a awful, violent manner, and that's what ends up happening to him. So Phelan ends up going on the hunt for Seb. Seb goes into hiding, doesn't he? He wants to make sure that this idea that he killed Luke doesn't get any further. Gary ends up finding him and persuades him to help defend Anna in court. Remember, Phelan... What?
Gary finds Seb.
Yeah. And he says, look, you need to help me defend my mum in court because she's being accused of pushing you off this ladder when I don't think it was you.
She's annoying.
And he does, and his relationship with Abby hits the rocks again. Bit of an important moment for Seb in the spring of that year when he and Gary uncover the concrete twins, Vinny and Andy, who Phelan has buried in concrete at the building yard.
In a very laborious, wet scene, dragging them through the torrential rain.
They're setting concrete, and they like trick a guard and make him go into the Portaloo overnight so they can just hammer away with sledgehammers at this concrete pillars and because I think they're looking for a gun. I seem to remember they think that Phelan's put the gun in there, but they end up getting a bit more than they bargained for when they find a bit of a foot. So anyway, that kind of leads eventually to Pat's downfall. I mean, Seb's involved in those final scenes, isn't he? Because Pat goes into Eileen's house with his gun, and he holds Seb and Nicola and Eileen hostage for a bit. So that was quite an adventure for Seb. But Pat's eventually killed. Eileen, bogs off somewhere. She disappears from the show for a bit, leaving Seb living in number 11 on his own. Around this time as well, Abby worms her way back into his life and pretends to the social service as the house is hers. Seb is absolutely horrified to find out, though, that Abby is considering putting the twins up for adoption. So already they've been, I think, fostered by another family, and Abby's like, you need to make a clean break. They're having so much better time.
Well, she's like, I can't look after them the way that they're being looked after now.
And Seb's like, no, family is family. So he plans to adopt the twins himself, which I think at the time I didn't think was the best idea to have him saddled with these kids. But in any case, he was informed that to do so, he'd have to cut ties with his mum. So in the end, it doesn't happen. Abby at that time was in prison because she had taken the blame for Seb when he'd wrecked the flower shop.
Why did he wreck the flower shop?
It was because, I'm trying to get this right. Do you remember when... Who was it that tampered with Michelle's car? Was it Tracy?
I don't
Or was
remember.
it Abby? I think it might have been Tracy, but then Tracy blamed Abby for it or something like that. And anyway...
Seb wrecked the flower shop.
Seb wrecked the flower shop to get back at Tracy, basically.
And so he took the blame. She took the blame.
Abby took the blame. She ends up going to prison, which she ends up handily spending a bit of time in there with Sally, which is where the
doing yoga.
Abby and Sally's friendship came from. So yeah, things not looking so great for Seb at the end of 2018.
2019, she comes back to the street. He turns her away. Then in court,
it's really sad, really. The amount of time,
this was a big falling out that they had.
The amount of time that they had falling out. I mean, they had a bad relationship growing up because she was a rubbish mum. There's been very little time in his short life, that they were actually on speaking terms.
Yeah, they had the big falling out that they had was this conflict between them over the twins and whether they should be adopted or given to another family, and who should adopt them and who should keep them and who shouldn't. So, in court, Abby reveals that, she tells everybody that Seb is unfit to adopt the twins because he's not in full-time employment and he doesn't have his landlady's support for it. So he gets mad that she's lost him the chance of keeping what he thinks is the family together, right? So Abby and Seb then get given one last chance to see the twins before they get fully adopted.
Well, that was a sad scene.
And that was really sad. Then they get given a valeting job at Streetcars.
Yeah, I think one of the owners offers it to Abby and one offers it to Seb.
Then they get mad with each other again because they can't work together. So he goes off to work as a builder for Gary. Gets fired when he thumps him because he'd walked in on Gary's girlfriend, Sarah, in the bath.
Yeah, Seb had
comes into the house,
misread some signals from Sarah. He thought that Sarah was
fancied him,
yeah.
And then she laid a load of
sexy
candles and stuff everywhere.
Which is supposed
and
to be
he was
Gary.
like, "Oh, look at this trail of."
She'd promised Gary a birthday. She'd promised Seb, a birthday surprise, which was actually a free haircut. But Seb...
So this was like when Steve got his free shag from Tracy.
Basically.
Anyway, the incident leads to him breaking up with Faye and getting fired from his job when he beats Gary up.
Do you remember that scene where Gary holds the bag of cement, was it, or the bag of stones or something over Seb? Because this was when they had the all the Eastern European workers working with Gary, and then they get into an argument, and Gary's like, "Right, you need to both hold these bags of cement over your head, and whoever can hold it up the longest wins." And because Gary's
malicious,
he cuts the bag that Seb's holding, and it all falls down on top of him. So Seb dumps him, he gets the sack, and.
Not doing great. He was a bit of an angry young man. He had a bit. He
was. He had a temper.
But it was because he got crapped on. No, did Seb?
Seb. Sorry, yeah.
He rebuilds bridges with Abby after she becomes a bit of a hero during the Underworld roof collapse. She holds the whole thing up and rescues all the children that were in there working underage.
In your dreams.
Seb is a suspect for the roof collapse because he said to Gary, "I'll get you back for this." And everyone thought that, landing a roof on people's heads was pretty good revenge.
Well, there was the possibility that he would frame Gary because Gary was involved in the building work. So we wondered, did Seb go up there and tamper with it? No.
Nobody's been...
It's a big talking point for a little while back in 2019.
Nobody cares anymore about that. So, he falls for Alina. He finds out that she's been a victim of human trafficking, and he thinks that it was Jan that was behind it all, who's Eileen's new boyfriend, but he's actually an informant and the world's oldest Pokemon trainer. Seb helps Alina escape, police get called, traffickers get arrested, Alina goes back to Romania, and Seb then starts up a relationship with Emma.
It's really Seb's to blame for all this stuff that's going on with Alina and Tyrone at the moment.
Really,
if only he kept his neb out, then maybe Alina would just be happily slaving away at the nail salon, and Tyrone and Fizz would still be together.
Literally slaving away.
Yeah.
So tell me what happened in 2020.
Not much, really. I mean, Seb was only in 26 episodes last year, and this is like what I was saying on the main podcast, where although lots of people have really been enjoying watching Seb over the past few weeks, I think that maybe if they had kept him in and hadn't killed him off, then he may have faded back into obscurity again, because he really, really didn't do much last year. And what he did do wasn't that exciting. So Alina pops back into the show again. I didn't even mean to say that. And he's going out with Emma at this point. She realises, though, that he's still got feelings for Alina, so she dumps him. And there's this fairly boring and unforgettable, not quite a love triangle, but a bit of one story between Emma and Seb and Alina last year. And it was just a bit dull, really, wasn't it?
It was really bizarre because Alina used to be incredibly sweet and likeable. Emma's always been consistently one of my favourite characters. And Seb has sort of, he kind of made good on himself.
Yeah, but by this point, any kind of trace of, scallywaggery had been completely removed from the character, and he was just a decent, if maybe a little bland bloke. But I still did like him. But this story did nothing for me.
And then you've got Seb, who actually, I will say, of all the characters in Coronation Street, he's one of the few where a relationship actually improves him. Not many characters that you can say this about. So Seb in a relationship is much more of a nicer guy than Seb out of a relationship. Yet somehow this combination of these three characters, which on paper should have worked, was one of the most boring things I'd seen.
Well, also it was odd because when he initially fell for Alina, we thought that they were brilliant. They were a really, really lovely couple.
Yeah,
Alina was much more sweet and innocent there. Seb was kind of a bit goofy and smiley about it.
Well, she was reluctant, and she was like, "Oh, I don't want to," and she was like, "Didn't he?" Something about a biscuit.
I don't know.
There's some kind of thing about a biscuit. She's like, I've never been given a biscuit in my life.
But anyway, they were really cute. It's kind of
like Dobby
couple.
the house elf, where if you give her a biscuit, She has to marry you.
Emma and Seb though were also really, really lovely together, and I remember us agonising on the podcast over who do we want Seb to end up with more, Alina and Emma. That was quite a talking point. But then when it turned into a love triangle story,
it's like nobody. You're all boring.
It really was fairly dull. And they were all living there in the flat together, and isn't this awkward?
I don't want to upset you. I have feelings for you. I don't. I want to be friends. I don't want to mess up my friendship with you. Blah blah blah. Didn't work whatsoever.
No, and he ended up not going out with either of them. So
instead he decides
that story
to fall out with Abby over Charlie and Lexi, who are going to move to Australia with their adoptive family. He's like, you moved on too quickly. You got rid of your actual kids, and now you moved in with someone else's kid, because at this point she'd moved in with Kevin and she Jack, adopted Jack, kind of. And he's like, he just gets really mad about it, and he also really, really wants Abby to see the kids before they go, and she doesn't really want to. But Seb eventually gets told by Emma, look, you just need to have a good relationship with your mum. She's the only one you get. And that's it.
That is it. I mean, and then he's briefly reappeared about 3 weeks ago on the show, where they struck up this relationship with Nina over a shared love of Cradle of Filth.
And who doesn't share that love?
There's been more, tenuous links between characters, or more, with some relationships, they just need to look at each other, and then that's enough for them to start bonking away. But they just had this really, really lovely relationship with Nina, and now he's dead. Yeah. Oh, we should probably say this just for prostate-erity. What?
Prosperity?
Yeah.
Posterity.
I don't think it's anything to do with your prostate.
We should say it for history purposes.
Right.
That he struck up a relationship with Nina. They dated very briefly. He was murdered on his way home with her by Corrie and a gang of thugs that also included Kelly.
Yes.
And that, as far
as we're up to at the moment,
on the 8th of May, and that is as far as the story has gone. We do not know what's going to happen.
I don't think Seb himself is going to be doing very much, so it's safe to do this profile now. Yeah, so that's it. One of the things that was interesting that I saw that Harry said about this relationship with Nina was that meeting Nina makes him look at himself, and he starts to appreciate himself because he sees how much she loves him. Aww. He thinks that he had quite a lot of lack of self-love, and he didn't think he was a person that deserved love.
He's actually a really complicated character, Seb. And that's one of the things that made him so kind of interesting. His relationship with Abby and their history, and that's also one of the things that makes Abby such a fascinating character, actually, really. Yeah,
no, I agree. Yeah, definitely. So that is it. That is all that we've seen from Seb, and all that we.
Shall I just read his leaving quote?
Oh yeah, that's what I was looking for, but you beat me to it. Go on then.
He says, "Goodbye, Coronation Street. It's been a wild 5 years on the cobbles, and I've loved every second. I've made memories that I will cherish forever, and I've worked with the most amazing people. I couldn't have dreamt of a better way to spend these years of my life. Thank you so much for all the support Seb has received throughout his turbulent time on the street, and thank you so much for the amazing response to this immensely important and relevant storyline. There couldn't have been a more worthy end for Seb. It was an honour to be trusted to tell this harrowing story, and I hope that we have been able to make a difference and raise awareness. It's been an honour and a privilege. Lots of love, Harry. Kiss."
Very nice.
So, I mean, I don't know if that was just for me, that kiss, but I share it with you.
I don't. We haven't seen anything yet about, did he jump? Was he pushed from the show? It seems like, from what we can gather about this story with Nina, there was a very, very long-term plan to have this story happen, and so maybe it's been on the cards for a long time that Seb was gonna, have to take one for the team or whatever.
I just want to mention,
but I don't know whether Harry wanted to leave or whether it was a necessary evil.
I don't know what happened, but I just wanted to say quite a funny thing. Harry he's not a big tweeter. He's only done 155 tweets in his whole tweeting career. And before he tweeted this lovely, poignant goodbye message, his last tweet was, "Guess who's back? Definitely haven't been locked out of my Twitter for 3 months. don't change your phone number and forget to update your Twitter before you log out, kids. And then he also wrote,
sage advice to us all.
If I spelt that definitely, would that mean I'm H? He is H, really, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that was really funny that he obviously, I don't know whether he got told to do this or if he thought, oh crap, but he obviously went, oh yeah, I'm leaving, I should probably do something on Twitter. And you just imagine him for a week going, oh my god, what was it? Harry rocks 3. No, Harry is cool 99. Exclamation mark? No, question mark. No, exclamation mark.
Get Sharon, she's pretty good at guessing passwords recently, isn't she? Anyway, that's it. I've got a few other quotes from Harry here, but I don't know whether I can be bothered to. Do you want to read them?
I'll read them. You don't need to be
I'm dropping asleep here.
It's fine. He said, I came in for 6 months and just kept going. I always kept my fingers crossed they'd want to keep me on for longer, and it's unfolded quite nicely for me over the past year. I don't know when he was saying this. It's still pretty surreal. I'm very blessed to be in the position I'm in right now, and I'm very aware of that. There's been great feedback. It's nice, because a lot of the comments I do get are about my acting, and that's really encouraging. Even if someone says Seb is an annoying little teenager, that's cancelled out, because people also say I'm performing it well.
Didn't I think Piers Morgan had
I was
a bit
literally
of beef
about to
the
say
other day.
that his most recent newsworthy event in Seb's life was him saying he thought Piers Morgan was a bit of a git or something.
This was Seb saying it,
Seb
wasn't it?
said it
Harry.
on the show, and then Piers Morgan called him an impertinent little twerp, which is hilarious. I think Piers Morgan knows I think Piers Morgan knows how to wind people up.
Yes.
And I think he was joking, but everyone's like, Piers Morgan, how dare you criticise Sebastian? How do you feel now he's dead?
He's dead, yeah.
Oh, how could you? He knows it's a TV show, everybody.
Oh. I wonder whether Seb will go down, in our memory, or whether he'll fade.
I think, like Luke, he'll be known for his exit.
Yeah.
Because Luke...
And people will say, what did you do before
really
then?
Sad.
I don't really know.
We'll go, well, we've got a almost 40-minute long character profile if you want to listen to it. If you want to
find out.
I just want to read his final quote.
Go on, then.
Which is about whether Seb could be a villain.
Oh, yeah, I thought this was quite interesting. I plucked this out of an article
He wrote, the potential is definitely in him.
To be a villain.
Yes.
I'm just saying that because I didn't know whether people heard you saying what they were going to be talking about.
You don't need to talk it anymore.
Okay.
The potential to be a villain is definitely in him. A lot of it will depend on the situations he's put in and the influences he's under. He could go either way. We've seen that Seb could be sensible, but at the same time, he's got that other fiery side to him. Depends on what Seb thinks is right, which, just as easily, could be morally wrong. I think he's quite impulsive and does whatever he thinks is right in that moment. He doesn't have much control over his emotions and can let them get the better of him. He's very capable of making irrational decisions and thinking that he's being rational. He gets a crazy idea in his head, then bang! He just rolls with it. That reminds me very much of Abby.
Yeah. Do you think Seb could have been a villain? I wonder whether this was, I can't remember, said around the time that the Underworld roof collapse happened and he was one of the suspects.
And they were like, just say something cagey.
Yeah.
Everybody's got the potential to be a villain.
Because, Gary ended up going down quite a villainous route after his tinkerings with the Underworld roof, and maybe a lot of what Gary has been doing could have been Seb if...
I don't know. I think he's an intrinsically good person.
I think he is as well. And
I think a lot of people
like him.
are.
That's why I kind of like him. He was a nice, decent guy. He had a bad upbringing. It's led him to make some tough choices and maybe some wrong choices, but he's come out of it. Like Abby, he's reformed in the warming aura of Coronation Street. And it's I think Seb has been a decent, very underused character.
Likeable.
And he's not going to get used anymore now.
No, well performed.
Absolutely.
And sad and tragic end, but a very fascinating
one
story.
Of the most magnificent male haircuts that Coronation Street has ever had.
As he said himself, the actor, the man bun has left the building.
Yeah.
Will there be another one like it again?
Well, yeah, maybe.
I can hardly imagine.
I think he'd fit in quite nicely in 70s Corrie with that hair, wouldn't he? They all had it back then.
Yeah.
Billy Walker, Ray Langton.
Saw him off.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're done.
Yeah.
That's it. That is a whistle-stop tour of Seb.
For listening.
Enjoyed him. Good job, Harry. If you want to know more, listen to the main podcast this week.
Profile. You can email us at conversationstreet@gmail.com. You can find us at conversationstreet.podbean.com. You can view us on iTunes. Perhaps don't base your opinion on this particular episode, please.
It's not our finest.
Twitter, Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, and a Patreon. And That's it.
That is it. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Goodbye, Seb.
Thank you for the performance,
You've gone too soon.
Definitely gone too soon.
I'm really sad.
You and Luke, you know, you're having fun out there together.
Maybe doing donuts in your cars.
Yeah.